We could talk for a long, long time, but we need to wrap up. So I want to throw out there, I want to ask you, if you had 3 nuggets that you could share with our audience related to kindness, how kindness can be a benefit or a blessing. And you've already dumped a bunch of nuggets. You got 3 more that you would like to share?
I think my first would be, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier about my personal motto, that every interaction is an opportunity to change a life. And I do not say that lightly. I say it from a place of, I've been there in the depths of hell, on the edge of living and dying, and I know that the way you choose to treat someone in those moments, even if you don't know that they're in one of those moments, when you treat someone with kindness, with respect, and with love, it can be the means of helping them hold on. And I know the opposite is also true, because you're going to leave a mark one way or the other. So choose, be intentional about how you are going to treat people.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Iglia, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to another edition of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, the kindness giver, and I am missing my co-host, Dr. Ilya Gorgoras, who is normally here with me, the happiness doctor. He's on a road trip, and unfortunately, driving and being on a Zoom call are not conducive to safety. So he isn't able to join us today, but I am joined by a beautiful lady, an amazing and inspirational lady named Jodi Orgill Brown. And it is such an honor to have her here with us, here with me. I say us because Ilya's here in spirit, right? Let me tell you just a little bit about Jodi. She's a professional public speaker. She's a trainer. She's an award-winning author. Her wonderful book, The Sun Still Shines, has sold nearly 50,000 copies. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about why. It's an autobiographical book, and she's going to discuss a little bit about what that contains, along with a whole bunch more. Jodi's also a certified business coach and a consultant, and she's on a mission to help leaders and teams gain strength from struggle, which she knows a lot about, and also to catapult from change and thrive in uncertainty. Through her work at Global Leader Group, she's taught and inspired thousands to lead through their interactions and create systems for growth. Jodi has a master's degree in organizational leadership, a bachelor's degree in public relations, and is an exactly what to say certified guide. When organizations like Comcast, O.C. Tanner, Coldwell Banker, and United Way want their teams to grow together through change, they reach out to Jodi. Jodi is working on her 5th book, The Anti-Fragile Mindset, which helps individuals embrace principles to grow stronger from the storms of life. Jodi, thank you so much for joining us today. So grateful to have you here. My goodness, we wanted to have you on our show for a million reasons. One of those big reasons is because you are an amazing survivor. You've been through so many different challenges, particularly with brain tumor and other things like that. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself and about that challenge and how kindness played a role in helping you to move forward and work through this challenge?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here, Randy. It's a privilege to be with you. As you mentioned, my book, The Sun Still Shines, is a memoir of my experiences with discovering I had a brain tumor. And I have to say, honestly, I was living at that point in time what I deemed to be my white picket fence life. Everything was going as I had planned. I'm very much a control person. So I had planned out goals for myself, set a bunch of things that I wanted to accomplish in life. And I was living all of those things. I was married to my best friend, mother of 4 children, working in an industry I love, doing nonprofit work and running charities. And honestly, things were checked off the list of all of those things I wanted to accomplish in life. And I was living it and I was doing it. And it was at that point in time that I started having what I now know to be our symptoms. But I just started having issues. I started having severe dizzy spells and vertigo and massive headaches, and one thing upon another came to a point where, after a series of months of going to doctors, trying to figure out what was wrong, looking at things one at a time, we finally realized there has to be something bigger than each of these individual things. And so my husband came home one day and said, you got to go back to the doctor and figure out what's going on. And that was how I was diagnosed within just days. Once we got serious about it and really pushed for some advocacy for ourselves and said, I got to find out what's going on. Let's keep looking until we find a solution. At that point in time, I found myself in an MRI machine. And honestly, it was only hours later that I found out that I had a brain tumor that was wrapped around my brainstem. And as you can imagine, that sent my whole life on just a kind of a downward spiral trajectory for a while, in trying to figure out how to navigate forward with a brain stem tumor. While I have 4 little kids at home, and I'm a wife and mother and working, and you real quickly realize that many things that you're doing in your life are not your highest priority. Things just had to start falling away, because suddenly I found myself spending a majority of my time in doctors' offices, in the hospital, in appointments, having tests done, and then trying to figure out what my future was going to look like. So it was a pretty scary time.
My goodness. I mean, I can't begin to imagine what it must have been like. I can relate a little bit because of, my wife's situation with her cancer, a tumor on her leg, etc. Having to really just take a look at your life, okay, and say, what do I really need to prioritize, and what can I just dump? Because I mean, we had to go through that same process. We had to just like, okay, these are the things that we wanted to do, but they're just going to go by the wayside. I pretty much had to just dump all my business stuff that I was doing at the time. So I can relate a little bit. I can imagine, though. I'm not a mother. I don't have 4 children. My wife could speak to you a lot better than I can about that. How were you able? Was there any? Can you think of any particular instances during that time when people reached out in kindness that helped you to carry on, maybe when you're feeling a little bit discouraged or down? I'm sure, as positive as you are, I'm sure you had your down and discouraged times.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think no matter how positive or optimistic a person you are, when you get news like that and the reality hits you, anyone is going to have some downtime. And I think that that's pretty normal, to have those days of discouragement, anxiety, and even depression. I think you can't face mortality without having some of those days. And as I was thinking about, what were some of the most impactful moments that I had with others, especially before going into the hospital, because I had a ton of experiences in the hospital and afterwards, but there were a few things that hit me before I went in that kind of gave me the hope and the strength to be able to face those challenges that were to come. And I can say that now, looking back with 2020 glasses on, I can say that hindsight has shown me that it was some of these things that really helped keep me going. One event in particular, I had been hospitalized for several days as they were trying to determine what was in my brain. At the time, they knew it was a mass. They didn't know what it was. And so in the course of about 4 days, they did several hundred tests on me, which is about as pleasant as it sounds. It was very nightmarish. It was incredibly painful. It was exhausting. People came in and out of my room all of the time, poking, prodding, spinal taps, MRIs, X-rays, just a variety of things. And by the time I got home, I was worse than when I had gone in. And not just because of the exhaustion, but because actually I had a spinal fluid leak from where they had done a spinal tap to withdraw some spinal fluid, and the hole didn't seal. I felt horrible. Like, it was just this whole series of very, very difficult circumstances. And to top it off, the day that I was released from the hospital was the birthday of my youngest child. And here I was not in any position to be the happy mother, to be putting on a party, to do anything. And yet I felt terrible because
Excuse me. Excuse me for a minute, Jodi. I gotta
go
grab.
take care of you.
My goodness, I apologize. I'm fighting this blasted cold.
Well, I get it a little bit. I was up this morning. I've been sucking on throat lozenges because I've had something going on in my throat. So I've been doing a little bit of the same thing. I was thinking about that this morning. I thought, oh, I hope I'm okay when I get on to do the podcast, because I definitely have something going on myself. So
Yeah, I've got to get this, get a cough drop in my mouth, and then
that I just finished sucking on mine.
let's go back.
Okay. All right, I will just start that little portion again.
Yeah.
And then you can cut it however it makes sense, okay?
Yep. Yep.
So I found one experience that I had that really bolstered me for the fight that was to come. Happened when I was released after 4 days in the hospital, where I had a series of diagnostic tests to figure out what this mass in my brain was. It was an incredibly difficult couple of days. They did literally hundreds of tests, pokes and prods and MRIs and x-rays and blood draws and fluid draws and all of these different things. And by the time I left, I was not only physically exhausted, but I also had a spinal fluid leak, which was causing me severe headaches and needing to be bedridden. So it was a really difficult time. And on top of that,
I'm just hurting. I'm hurting just listening to that. I mean, I can't even imagine, but oh my goodness.
I hurt when I think about that experience too. So I honestly try not to go there very often, because it was not a positive experience. And the day that I was released from the hospital, I was released in the morning, and it was my youngest son's birthday. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm getting out of the hospital, but I am in no condition to celebrate. And yet I felt like this immense pressure as a mom to go home and be happy and celebratory and do all of the things that you should do for a child, to recognize a child's, fun day and their special day. And I guess word had gotten out that, of course, my neighborhood knew what was going on. And so word had gotten out that it was my son's birthday and that I was being released from the hospital. And that afternoon, I'd been home for just a couple of hours, and I was laying down and resting. And there was some commotion outside. And I went to look and see what was going on. And one of my good friends and neighbors had shown up at my house, and she started setting up some party equipment outside. She started decorating, she started bringing tables. She had set up a cotton candy machine and was making little bunches of cotton candy. And I went out and I said, Catherine, what are you doing? And she said, well, it's a birthday today and we have to celebrate. And unbeknownst to me, she had called our friends and neighbors, told them what was going on, and said, we have to carry on and have a birthday party for this little boy. And so she was the first to come, but one by one, probably 30 people showed up with their kids in tow, and they threw a party for my son. They brought a lounge chair out in my yard so that I could stay kind of in a resting position, because I wasn't able to sit up very much at that time. And there were balloons and party favors and cotton candy galore, and a cake that was made that was specialized with his name on it. And the whole neighborhood was there. And Catherine was the first person to show up, and she was the last person to leave. And it just absolutely wowed me that here was this woman. She was a nurse. She's a surgical nurse. She's a very, very busy person, but she took all of this time out of her day to come and help make sure that I was okay, that my family was okay, and that my son was going to get a birthday party because she knew the condition that I was in. And that has just touched me so much. It really strengthened me to see that when you look for opportunities, you can find a million ways to help people, even if it means throwing a birthday party for a little one.
My goodness, that grabs me right here. And I sit and think, her kindness, you're never going to forget it. It's engraved right here on your heart. It's like she took a little carver and just wrote her name there. You're never going to forget that. And I am almost willing to bet that as young as your boy was, he's never going to forget it either. He's going to remember that experience throughout the rest of his life.
I think all of my kids will remember that experience. And one of the things that I realized is that Catherine's heart is so strong and so big because it was also weak. She had her own series of health challenges, and she had heart problems that nearly took her own life. And I think she came to realize in her own way how much the help of others and the kindness of love of others could make a difference in your life and in your story. So she was always the first person to show up when someone else was in need. So I came to realize it was not a coincidence that it was Catherine that showed up. She had learned it from her own experiences, and then she was passing it on and paying it forward to others. And it was such a beautiful lesson to me right as I was starting my journey of the impact and influence that can be had when someone just shows you a little bit of kindness.
How many years has it been since that experience?
I was thinking about it. Next week is 15 years since the day that I was diagnosed. And I truly believed at that point in time that this was going to be something that we just did. We went in, we got it taken care of, and then my life would go back to normal. And I have since realized that that is not how my story has played out. It's not been one of those things that you could just jump back and go back to normal life. So I would love to say that I'm over everything and that everything is great and wonderful. But I still face a variety of challenges, and I'm still very much battling the battle. I had 2 recent surgeries just about 4 or 5 months ago. And those were surgeries 21 and 22.
Oh my goodness.
So the fight is real, but the blessings are just as real.
Well, and think about this. Your battle continues, but that experience is still strengthening you. It's still,
and it is still strong in my heart. And every time I think about it, I am still buoyed and lifted by the kindness and love that was shown to me on that one day almost 15 years ago. And that's the power that kindness can have. When someone does something that really impacts you in that moment, then it doesn't become just a moment. It becomes a memory, and it becomes something you live over and over again, and that you then go back to when you need that strength, when you need to remember why it's important for you to get up and go do something. You go back to those memories that you rely on.
Hello, I'm Randy McNeely, co-host of the Kindness Factor podcast and co-creator of the Kindness Factor Human Interest series. Thank you so much for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate you. Kindness has totally transformed our lives, and we are totally dedicated to paying it forward by raising a voice for kindness. Why? Because kindness is love in action, and it's love that touches hearts, changes lives, and heals the world. If that resonates with you, we invite you to join us in our efforts to pay it forward. Here's how you can do that. First, subscribe to the Kindness Factor podcast at the link listed below. You can pay up to $10 per month. Your support will enable us to continue to deliver great content and to take our message to a much broader audience. Second, think of 5 people that you think our efforts will resonate with, and take the time to email them and invite them to listen to the podcast and if it resonates with them, to do the same thing that we're asking of you. Finally, take the time to subscribe, to like, and to subscribe to all of our social media channels listed below. Remember, with kindness, everybody wins. Thank you so much for your support. That's so true. You think about it. That's why one of the things I encourage people to do, invite people to do, is to create what I call a kindness journal. It's like a gratitude journal. You record those experiences where someone has done something kind for you and it's impacted your heart. And there's a couple of reasons for doing that. First of all, it ingrains it even more in your heart when you write it down.
Yep.
And secondly, anytime you're having a rainy day, a discouragement day or something, you feel down, you can go back and just start reading through those experiences. Just like when you said, when you think about it, it just buoys you up. You read through those experiences, you're gonna get the dose. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, all those things are going to be released in your body, and you're gonna relive those experiences in your mind. You're going to do mental time travel, and you're going to relive that experience. I had a friend of mine say something very kind to me 40 years ago. And every time I think about that or retell it, it still lifts my heart, lifts my soul. My daughter, 5 or 6 years ago, I was going through some tough times and trying to get something done and struggling. And she just came into my room. It was on her birthday. And she knocked on my office door. And I invited her to come in. And she just came and stood there. She looked at me. She's like, "Did you need something, sweetheart?" She says, "No, I just wanted to smile, Dad, and let you know I love you." And she smiled and let me know. And it was exactly what I needed just in that minute, that moment. And all the frustration I'd been feeling about this particular assignment I was working on just went away. And it's amazing how those excuse me, I have to apologize to the audience. I'm just saying I'm fighting a cold, so you see me sucking on a cough drop, you're going to hear me cough or hack a little bit. I'm human. That's the way it is. Anyway, that little experience still sticks in my heart. And it's amazing how accumulation of those experiences, when we have those experiences and then have the feelings that come because of those experiences, we cannot help. Like you were saying, you cannot help want to pay it forward. You can't help want to go out and help somebody else have that same experience those same feelings. So fast forward, it's now 15 years since you had your diagnosis and you've been through all these surgeries. Some people would let an experience like yours, or the multitude of experiences like yours, with the pain and the challenges and the struggle and the recuperation and the various adversity that you faced, some people would let those things crush them. But rather than allowing your challenges and your adversity and things to crush you, you've used it as a stepping stone. Or stepping stones, a multitude of stepping stones, really. Tell me a little bit about how your challenges have propelled you forward to doing what you're doing now, and how the kindness you've received along the way has impacted the success you're having now.
That's a great question. That's a great question. And I think the experiences that I've had have been incredibly challenging. There's no way around that. And when I just had these last 2 surgeries in the fall, I was reminded of how hard things can get when I was having down days and feeling like, oh, what have we gotten ourselves into? And almost a PTSD sort of effect of, oh my gosh, I'm not back there in that worst of times, am I? And you really do have to find that strength, that mental and spiritual and emotional strength to get through those kinds of challenges. And one of the things that I've realized is all of those challenges can result in one of 2 things. They can make you bitter, or they can make you better. And it's absolutely a choice to determine which way you decide to go. And I saw many of the people in the brain tumor and cancer community who chose to become very bitter, who wanted to sue the doctors and who were mad at everyone. And it just didn't do anyone any good. And it certainly didn't do them any good. And I chose very early on that I was going to use these experiences to make me better, to help me improve, and then eventually down the line, down the road, to help others improve as well. Because what I didn't realize at the time was, as we were going through each of these experiences, one surgery after another, one emergency after another, we were also learning how to deal with things, how to cope, how to face challenges, how to get through struggles, and how to come out better on the other side. And so as I look back over time, I realized there were a series of lessons in each one of those experiences that I was able to draw upon and start sharing those with others. When I got out of the hospital, I had people who started asking me to come and speak to their church group or their youth group or their service club, and then to their company, and will you come speak at our staff meeting and just tell your story. So in the beginning, I was really just, it was very organic. I was just talking about what they asked me to talk about. I was telling my survival story and then inputting a few little, nuggets and lessons for life. And over time, I realized there's real content here. There's real principles that people want and need to have so that they can embrace in their own lives and in their own companies when struggles hit. And it really just started this, what is now a business. It's what I do is I go and I speak and I not only inspire, but I give real tools for how do you do these things? How can you plan so you're as prepared as possible when you go in? How can you take the things that have been hard and make yourself better, make the people around you better, and help your company thrive? Because it turns out, just like with everything else in life, there are hard ways of making it happen and there are easier ways. And if you can get over some of those boulders that are in your way and have a little bit easier path to walk, then that is what you should do. And so that's what I'm doing, is I'm helping people, inspiring them, and I'm also teaching them about the importance of interpersonal interactions, because that was a huge part of my survival. That was a huge part of my survival. And I don't say that lightly, because when you are in those deepest, darkest, hardest moments, every interaction that you have with someone can literally be the means of deciding which way you're going to go. And my personal motto now is every interaction is an opportunity to change a life. Because every interaction you have is going to leave either a negative mark or a positive impact. And if you are intentional about going into an interaction, then you can be the means of leaving that positive mark, of changing someone's life for the better. And more often than not, it comes through these moments of kindness. And I know that people often talk about random acts of kindness, and random is great, but I think intentional is even better. If you have the intention to go about doing good, then you're going to be seeing those moments and seeing those opportunities when you can step in and you can be the means of changing someone's life.
My goodness, it's almost like you were a fly on the wall for our last interview with this wonderful lady named Louisa Garrett, because she talked about the importance of, or about how it happens when you start looking, intentionally looking. It's amazing how many things you can see that were there before, but you just weren't seeing them because you weren't intentionally looking. I don't believe really in random acts of kindness, meaning, okay, I believe in random opportunities to be kind being presented to us. But every time we are kind, it's because we choose to be. We don't have to be kind. We could be grouchy. We could see something where we could do something nice for somebody and just walk away. We don't have to do that. Every time we do it, though, we make a choice, and it's not random. It's something that we decide to do. There's random opportunities.
I love that. That's a much better way of talking about it. There's random opportunities. You don't know when they're going to hit, but you do still get to be intentional to choose how you are going to respond. And let's face it, there are times that we have all ignored those where it's like, oh, it's just not a good time. I can't do anything about it. And you drive on by the person that's sitting on the corner that is in need of help, or whatever the situation is. Those times happen. But if we can be intentional and be thinking about how we might be able to help, then when those random opportunities come, we have not only the intention, but the desire to want to help and the means to do it. And the means doesn't always mean money. Sometimes it just means stopping and having a conversation. One thing that I'll tell you my family did this year that I loved is on Christmas Eve, when we got together for our family Christmas party, we assembled what we called just homeless packages. And everyone had bought various products and different things that would be needed: socks, hats, gloves, scarves, nail clippers, various snacks and things like that. And we put them in these giant 2-gallon plastic Ziploc bags. And every family got to take a bunch of them home with them. And I kept those in my car right behind my seat all winter long. And every time I saw someone in need, I was able to, as long as I wasn't like going through a light at the time, I was able to hurry and stop the car, or even just roll down the window and grab one of these bags that was already made up, and I could give it to them and wish them well. They also each one of them had a little bit of cash in them as well, so that they could use the cash for whatever they might need if they needed to go in and get something. And talk about taking the intention to another level. It wasn't my idea to do that, but when we had set forth that idea and activity, and then all of a sudden I had the supplies with me, I was amazed at the incredible interactions I was able to have with some of these people, with some of these individuals who were having a hard time. And I remember one woman in particular, when I grabbed out this bag and walked it over to her and started talking to her, she's like, oh my gosh, just the things in this bag, just the fact that there was juice boxes and granola bars and a variety of things. She said that alone would keep me going for days. She said, this is the best goodie bag I have ever had. God bless you. Thank you so much. And then on top of that, to make it more meaningful, I have a nephew who passed away in the fall at age 16 from a battle with cancer. And I decided, I want to do things in memory of this boy who lived so good, so hard, so well in his 16 years. And so I wrote up a little note, typed it up, and I put it in each one of these bags and said, I'm doing this partly to bring joy for Jared in his memory. And every single time that one of these individuals opened the bag and they took the moment to read that note, then the tables were turned, and all of a sudden they reached back out to me and said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for your loss, but thank you for sharing your loss as a moment of positivity for me. And those were some of the most poignant experiences I've ever had. And I got to have about a dozen of them this winter because of that intention that we had, and that I had the right thing in the right moment to be able to step in when those random opportunities came.
Isn't that just amazing? They say opportunities present themselves, and those who are prepared are the ones who are able to lean into them. And you were prepared. You had the bags, you had them in your car, and the opportunities came. I firmly believe, and you and I both know that we both believe in God. We're religious. I firmly believe that when we open our eyes and start looking for opportunities to do good, that God puts people in our place, puts people in place for us to be able to help and to help us.
Absolutely. It goes both ways for sure.
It does.
Every time that we reach out to someone else to help them, it also buoys and strengthens us. And it also reaffirms those beliefs that we do have, that it is not only our opportunity, but also our responsibility to help. We are our brother's keepers. We all are here to help each other. I saw that over and over and over again in my brain tumor journey, where people showed up for me and they showed up for my family. Being in the hospital for, more than a month at a time meant that there was not going to be anyone at home to be the mom. So my mom moved into our home to help take care of my children, and every single person in our community stepped forward to help in some way, whether that was taking kids to activities, showing up with meals. I found out after the fact that my daughter did swim lessons with one of her friends, and I hadn't even been made aware. Just all of these things that were happening because people stepped in when there was an opportunity to help. So I truly am a believer that it helps both people, the giver and the receiver. And I've seen that in my career as well. Now, when I go out and help try to stand on a stage and inspire and give people tools to help them strengthen their interactions and become better and stronger from the struggles that they face, then on the flip side, they reach back out to me and show love and kindness and gratitude. And the great thing is it's a cycle that just keeps on giving.
Well, so, okay. So you're now a professional speaker and you're a member of the National Speakers Association. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I know that you've won some storytelling competitions, and you've also, just going about what you were just talking about, how other people have reached out to help you. And you just recently posted on LinkedIn about this wonderful guy whose name eludes me right now, but you're going to tell us. Tell us about what happened, about how someone else lifted you and is giving you the opportunity to pay it forward and lift others because of his kindness.
Well, it's interesting because it started with his kindness to me and then went forward with my kindness to him. And again, it's become a cyclical thing now. But there is a gentleman named Jason Hewlett. He was one of the youngest people ever inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame, which is a pretty big deal in our industry. It means he is literally one of the best of the best of the best in the world at what he does. And when I first started attending meetings at the National Speakers Association about 7 or 8 years ago, I walked in the room and in walks Jason Hewlett. And I had seen him perform on little stages, on huge stages. I'd seen him in front of thousands of people, and the man is amazing. He's a one-man show. He's a singer, he's an impersonator, he's a performer, he's a comedian. Like, the guy is incredible. And here he was walking into our chapter of the National Speakers Association. And I was just starstruck, absolutely starstruck. And then I remember seeing him. He would come, he didn't come every time because he was often traveling and doing engagements and speaking throughout the world. But I remember seeing him walk in kind of late in a meeting one day. And because he came in late, he just sat at the back of the room. And I noticed he sat there and he was just all by himself. And it took me a few minutes of trying to talk myself into it, but I thought, there's no way I'm going to pass the opportunity. So I went and I just plopped myself down next to Jason Hewlett. And I introduced myself and I told him how much I admired him and his work. And we paid attention to the presentation that was going on, but in every break that we had, we just chatted for a few minutes. And that was the start of what became a real, legitimate relationship and friendship. And over the course of the next several years, as I was making these little strides forward and trying to get on first little stages and then bigger stages and then bigger stages, and Jason would just send me little notes of encouragement and say, wow, Jodi, I'm so proud of you. You're doing it. You're doing it. All of your hard work is paying off. And he would just do these kind little things. And then just a week ago, this wasn't such a little thing. It may have been a little thing to him, but it was not a little thing to me. He has a YouTube channel, and tons of people go to his YouTube channel to watch his inspirational content, his advice, his how-tos. And on his YouTube channel, he said, there's a lot of great motivational speakers that are out there, but organizations and people may not be aware of them because they're not household names. They're not the Tony Robbins level or Mel, they're just not the big names. And so you may be unaware of them. He said, I want to tell you about someone who is someone you should absolutely look up and find out more about, but you're not going to know her by name. And then he said, Jodi Orgill Brown. And he just gave his own personal testimonial about me.
Your jaw totally dropped. You're like,
oh Oh my gosh. And I saw it because I was watching his YouTube channel because I'm one of his subscribers and big fans and followers.
Yeah.
And how incredible to be watching his YouTube channel and to see him paying homage to me and telling people, hey, you need to go out and look her up because here's someone who is doing good, who is making an impact in the world. And he said, she's smart, she's talented, she's fantastic, she's this amazing storyteller. And he's going on, and my jaw is just dropping. And honestly, I think I have watched that little 70-second video clip about 15 times in the last week.
Oh my goodness.
Just because of the buoying strength that it gave me for him to reach out and just show his belief in me. Talk about a kindness that he didn't need to do, that I don't even necessarily know if I would have seen had I not been watching his channel. But what a great gift that he gave to me. And since then, I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn and go to my website and say, hey, I'm finding you because Jason Hewlett told me that you're one that I should watch. What an incredible, incredible gift.
All it takes is a little nudge here and there. Thank goodness. What a beautiful thing for him to go out of his way. He went the extra mile. He didn't need to do that, but he did. He saw the good in you. He wanted to be the good, and he went the extra mile by taking time to mention you and point people out to an amazing speaker, a wonderful lady who's got a great story to tell and who can help you in your business and in your life.
And yet, if you look at it, some people would say, well, yes, but you were competitors with each other. He could have just continued to talk up his own value and talk about the awards that he has won and talk about the things that he brings to a stage. But instead, he turned the tables and he gave me the opportunity to shine in those moments. And in my eyes, that makes him even better. And not just because he's talked about me, but because he just didn't keep the focus all on him, but instead he shared not only his brilliance, but he also is giving the opportunity to share the stage and say, hey, there's a lot of wonderful people out there, and you should be aware of how they can go in and help your people and your organization. And it was just a beautiful experience altogether.
Well, think about that. Because of the way he did it, because it was authentic, because he wasn't trying to put the spotlight on himself or anything like that, he increased the shine around himself.
He absolutely did.
His brand just got polished.
His brand got polished, and people, I think, gain more respect for someone when they are willing to shine the light on others, because it says so much about themselves. It says that they're the kind of person who they do give, they are willing to help others, they go out of their way to be kind and to show kindness, and they want others to rise as well. It's not all about just, hey, me, I want the spotlight on me. It's about, helping all boats rise, so to speak. So, and he absolutely, that is Jason to a T. In fact, now he really talks about, in his speeches, he talks about living the promise to yourself and the promise that you make to others, rather than setting a goal. He says, why would you set a goal when you can live a promise? And to me, that was another fulfillment of him living his promise. And part of his promise and part of mine, and Randy, part of yours, is to be of service to the world and to do good and to help impact others' lives. And that was one more way that Jason lives his promise.
That's beautiful. We could talk for a long time, but we need to wrap up. So I want to throw out there, I want to ask you, if you had 3 nuggets that you could share with our audience related to kindness, how kindness can be a benefit or a blessing. And you've already dumped a bunch of nuggets. You got 3 more that you would like to share?
I think my first would be, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier about my personal motto, that every interaction is an opportunity to change a life. And I do not say that lightly. I say it from a place of, I've been there in the depths of hell, on the edge of living and dying. And I know that the way you choose to treat someone in those moments, even if you don't know that they're in one of those moments, when you treat someone with kindness, with respect, and with love, it can be the means of helping them hold on. And I know the opposite is also true, because you're going to leave a mark one way or the other. So choose, be intentional about how you are going to treat people. Another thing I would say about kindness is kindness becomes memorable, and you can be remembered for your kindness. And so as you go out to make your mark in the world, realize that those little moments, those moments of being able to talk to this homeless woman that I had a conversation with and giving her that goodie bag, I guarantee she's going to remember me, even though I may not recognize her if I were to see her again at a future time. But she will remember me, because she will remember the way that she felt, the hope that it gave her, and the love that she felt in that interaction. So kindness is not fleeting. It is something that creates a memory, and that memory can create a poignant feeling that can be brought up over and over and over again. And then I guess
out through time.
Ripples
out through time.
Over and over again until the ripple effects just, go throughout the world. And then the final thing that I would say is choosing to be kind is also a way that we can choose to serve God. And for me, that's an incredibly important part of my life. And I know that the Savior says, inasmuch as you do it unto the least of these, you have done it unto me. And so every opportunity that we take to help and serve someone else is also showing our dedication to our Creator. And to me, that's one of the most important things that I could ever do. And whether you believe in God or the power of the universe or karma, it's pretty much a universal thing that being kind should be one of the foundations of society. And yet, too often these days, we are screaming at each other instead of taking the opportunity to simply serve each other. And if we could step back and show a bit of kindness in those moments, I think the world would be a better place.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Jodi. And so, okay, so here's the final question. How can our audience connect with you?
Oh, I am all over online, but the easiest ways to find me probably are through LinkedIn, and it's Jodi Orgill Brown, and my YouTube channel. I have a ton of content. In fact, this week I'm getting ready to post my 100th video on my YouTube channel.
Awesome.
And there are tons of videos, both about my personal brain tumor journey, how to overcome and navigate through life's challenges, as well as some things about writing books and being a speaker and some speeches, but a lot of it is just content for navigating the challenges of life. So LinkedIn, YouTube, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and you can always go to my website, which is www.jodiobrown.com. That's JODIO Brown.com.
Fantastic. We will have all that information in the description for the show. Thank you so much, Jodi, for joining us.
Randy, can I make one little offer?
Absolutely.
Can I offer a free signed copy of my book to one of your readers that I will let you do however you want, how you select them, someone that leaves a note or a comment? I would love to be able to send a signed copy of my memoir to someone who is listening and feeling inspired by these messages.
Wonderful. We can certainly put that out there. Absolutely. You heard her. And I'll come up with a way. It'll be in my post. I'll figure out how I'm going to do that. Now you've given me a challenge. That's great. Thank you so much, Jodi. And thank you to our audience. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is just a privilege to have you be part of our audience. And if this was an enjoyable experience, if it resonated with you, and you can think of other people who you think would enjoy this, please feel free to share. The more we can do to share the stories of kindness, to inspire people to be kind, the better this world will be. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next week, we'll see you then.